killed who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight.
Keep your baby close to you. There's something out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Dawn. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Corey.
What's going on there, ma'am? We were kidnapping. Hurry, please, please.
All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover murder, mystery to the paranormal, and today we're going to be talking about the Idaho student case and the latest details. There was some footage that just came out like 2 hours ago. Now, keep in mind it came from TMZ, but apparently there's some footage of what looks like a White Hyundai Elantra driving down that Walenta Drive, which is just kind of behind the King Road residence. Would it be southeast? Yeah, southeast. And anyway, so we'll take a look at that, and then we'll go over some of the just latest videos and stuff like that, and a couple other things that we'll touch on. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and oh, thank you so much, Geneva. So, but before we get started, we always like to give back by helping out with the missing. So quickly, we're just going to go ahead and show a couple missing people, and then we'll get into the show. So today we've got Samaria Perkins. She went missing on December 16th, missing out of Las Vegas, Nevada. She's just 15 years old, brown hair, blue eyes, 5'2" and 100 pounds. Not much other details than that. If you have any information, please call 911 or 1-800-THE-LOST. So that is Samaria Perkins, missing out of Las Vegas, Nevada, in just about a month. Okay, so one more. Here we've got Janella Hugh, and she went missing on December 29th. And she is just 13 years old, brown hair, brown eyes, 5'5", 115 pounds. No extra details, but if you have any information, please call 911 or 1-800-THE-LOST. And that is Janella, and she went missing out of Albany, New York. Okay. All right, so let's get started here. Set up here. Make sure, and then mods, just let me know if chat gets going a little fast. I've got it set at a lower speed right now, but if I need to crank it up, just let me know. And we'll go ahead and start playing some of the latest updates with the case, and then we'll look at that video that was released. And I've been able to study it a little bit, and I've got some interesting details to show you guys, so I'm kind of excited for that. So we'll just kind of play some of the latest stuff that's came out. Give me a second, I'll get the volume on here. So this first little part, this is a lady that dated or went on a Tinder date with Bryan, and it didn't go so well.
Psych majors at Pennsylvania colleges. He took her to a movie, then insisted on escorting her to her dorm room.
I was kind of afraid to say no, so I just let him come in with me.
Then he did something she says she'll never forget.
He kept trying to tickle me, and I would ask him to stop, or I'd say, "What are you doing?" And he would be like, I'm not tickling you," and he would get very serious.
Creeped out by Kohberger, she came up with a clever ruse.
I proceeded to pretend to throw up in the bathroom, hoping that, it would gross him out and he would leave.
Did it work?
Yeah. He had messaged me on Tinder and said that he was leaving and that he had a good time and that he would message me later. And then about an hour later, he messaged me and he said that I had good birthing hips, and I just never messaged him back after that.
Oh, wow. So I know like at least about 70% of my viewers are women. Just kind of curious on just hearing that, what you guys think about that. Sounds like, we've heard that Bryan is kind of awkward around women, and sounds like the date pretty much involved some inappropriate tickling. She felt uncomfortable, decided to make an excuse that she was sick and went to the bathroom. Luckily, that got him to leave. And then he sends her a text a couple hours later saying, "I enjoyed our time. You have great birthing hips." So definitely a little odd there. Yeah, cringe. Yeah. So anyway, so I just wanted to play that a little bit, and let me fix this fan here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, she does look a little different, huh? She got the red hair now and stuff. Yeah, keep in mind, I forget the year that they said that, but yeah. Okay.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. We have an update for you on the case of Bryan.
Okay, so like I said, I just kind of grabbed the latest news clips and just kind of grabbed the interesting parts from all the little news clips that I took from just the last couple days. And this one's really interesting, what they talk about. Because I believe this particular clip actually talks about when he moved to Pullman, Washington, which is really interesting because it actually conflicts what's in the probable cause affidavit. And we'll talk about that here in just a second.
Kohberger, that 28-year-old PhD student now charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students.
Yeah, 215.
They were Kaylee Gonsalves, Maddie Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Well, we've been telling you that the families of these victims have been looking for any possible connections between Kohberger and their loved ones who were murdered. And we can tell you that the attorney representing the family of Kaylee Gonsalves says they haven't found any connection. They don't believe that Kaylee knew Bryan Kohberger at all. And they say they've turned any information they have over to the Moscow Police Department. The question, of course, remains, did Bryan Kohberger know any of the other victims in this case, Kernodle, Chapin, or Maddie Mogan? We can't answer that question for you at this time, but we know that Moscow police continue to investigate whether or not Bryan Kohberger knew these people. We know that he moved to the area, to Pullman, Washington in August of 2022. And according to that affidavit.
Okay, so if you, excuse me, if you heard that right, she said he moved to Pullman in August of 2022. So last year. Now it's interesting, and this probably is just a typo. I mean, we've seen it in probable cause affidavits. They, little slip ups here and there, but they say towards the end in the affidavit that he went to, before the murders, he went in that area to Moscow, possibly stalking them at least 12 times, and they use between June and November, but here that that can't be possible because he didn't move there until August. Get caught up on the chat. I heard something go off here. Oh, thank you so much, YouTube Grandma, for the $10. That is so sweet. Thank you so much. And Cunningham, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting this channel. I just put out something for the members yesterday, so if you want to check that out after. Okay, so we'll keep playing, but I thought that was kind of interesting that they mentioned he moved in August, and the affidavit talks about him stalking. I mean, I guess maybe he still could have been stalking them. I'm not sure where he was at previously to that, even though he was going to that school. So that's something I'd have to look into.
For probable cause that was submitted to the court to charge him with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, that they say cell phone data showed that he, or at least his phone, were in the area of the home where these students lived, at least.
Yeah, in the affidavit, it says June to November, and we'll even look at that. But he was there from August. He moved in August. But he still could have went, wherever he was at previous. He still could have started in June stalking them, if that's the case.
12 times between August and November 13th of last year. Bryan.
Okay, so this is the TMZ clip right here. And then we'll kind of talk about it here. So this came out like a couple of hours ago. And I'll explain. That is on Walenta Drive. I had to...
Even stronger. There's a new video that may show Bryan Kohberger going back to the scene of the crime. The video shows a white car, possibly an Elantra.
Sorry, I had to kind of like edit out some of what they're saying because they have probably copyright music. So we're going to kind of break this down. So just to kind of recap, after the murders, he turned his phone back on at 4:48. And he was just south of Blaine, or in Blaine, Idaho, heading south, close to Genesee, Idaho. And then he would dip west back into Washington and then basically kind of circle back up north. And he would eventually, his phone would ping at home at 5:30. So then he would be home for what? A little over 3 hours. And then, 3.5 hours. And then at 9 a.m., go ahead and let this play for a minute. His phone would ping, and then so I guess it takes him 10 to 11 minutes from driving from his home to the King Road residence, because at 9:12 to 9:21 a.m. he is seen, or at least his phone is apparently pinging around that residence. So he did go back to the scene of the crime. Maybe either it's because my head's kind of blocking here. Let me move that a little bit. But, he left that sheath behind. Could it be possible that he was freaking out and wanted to see if maybe he could go back and get the sheath? Or is he just going back because, that's just kind of what they do. Let me grab these real quick. Could he have visited Moscow prior to actually moving? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because we don't know exactly. I'll have to see if I can find do some research on that. But let's see. So Daniela says he moved for PA to Washington on June 25th. And they're saying August. And that's what I thought originally was June, but they said August. I don't know. Maybe they're wrong. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. Thank you, Daniela. And let me get back to Josh here. But yeah, so either way, I'm sure, if he's pinging, it doesn't matter where he's living. He could still drive to Moscow either way. So thank you so much, Josh, for the $5. And Grace Maltese, thank you so much for the $4.99. And did I get everybody's? Oh, we got 2? Oh, thank you so much, Grace, for the $9.99. That is so sweet. Thank you guys so much. All right, so back on track. Yeah, so I'll look into that because that June 25th does sound familiar. That's the thing when you get into this part of the case, when you got a probable cause affidavit and so much information starts coming out, that you do run into things getting twisted around. And even I'm guilty of making mistakes like that. And if please, just be respectful. But please, if I make a mistake, just let me know in the chat. So anyway, going back to this day though, this is important with these footage that came out. So he did go back there for 9 minutes, and so keep playing. So you think reporter misspoke? Could have been.
The houses were.
When?
We don't know exactly what time it was.
But before the cops got there.
Before the cops got there.
Police believe the victims were killed around 4 a.m. This was shot in daylight, so just a matter of hours after the murders.
That aligns with what the cops had said.
The cops already have cell phone data that shows his phone was there at around 9 in the morning.
Can either debunk this or not. There's a couple of, like, whatever this is. I'll have to see if I can try to overlay that after the show. But anyway, like I said, I saw that a couple hours before the show. I just thought it was interesting because I would be crazy if that was him. All right, let's get back onto the latest stuff here. Okay.
Yards and yards and yards of yellow crime scene tape wrapped around a house that used to be kind of a centerpiece for fun in that community. And that house is going to stay that way, at least for the next few weeks, because the defense has asked that it remain a closed murder scene until February 1st. Investigators were there as recently as Friday. They were taking things out again, including the mattresses, presumably. We think maybe for testing, maybe for preservation purposes, but they tried to cover them up the best they could. Then just a 10-minute drive down the highway, this is the scene, neighboring Pullman, Washington.
Yeah, we're going to actually get right into that here in just a minute, Jen.
That's Bryan Kohberger's home at the Steptoe Village Apartments. It's also been a beehive of activity where Kohberger was living on the night of the murders. And of course, the investigators have done a full search inside that apartment. They've hauled out loads and loads of evidence, including a computer tower. But all we know is what we saw with our own eyes, because as I mentioned earlier, the search warrant is sealed. Both the reason for them going in the first place and then the accounting list of everything they took out. I want to bring in Darren Kavanoki. He's an attorney.
Because it only goes to help the defendant and his defense in this.
So the warrant will be sealed apparently until March 1st, and that's the search warrant for what they seized at Bryan Kohberger's apartment. And of course, once that's unsealed, we'll learn a little bit more. Especially, we know that they took a tower out, so one of his computers and a few bags, but we're not sure what else they took from his home.
Okay, so yeah, I could see them not wanting to say anything.
Sometimes it's a tip your hand thing. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But first, I want to read a second part of why the reason was given to keep this all under seal, because this one really piqued my interest, Darren. I'm going to quote, "The personal privacy interests of the witnesses, victims, and victims' families named in the application also support sealing the documents filed in this matter." Look, I always feel for victims, Darren, but the personal privacy of the witnesses, victims, and victims' families, I'm trying to figure out what that means. What was in that apartment that might affect the witnesses and the victims' families? I mean, I've got visions of like flow charts of who's going to get murdered next and when they shower and when, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I...
Yeah, so this is interesting because they had that, and if I can get the document, we'll kind of look at it. But it did have kind of a lot of unnecessary, well, I wouldn't say unnecessary stuff, but just a lot more stuff that usually is not as much detail goes into that kind of document. But basically what she's saying is it almost sounds like Bryan had some kind of like what she calls a flow chart, where you got pictures of your victims or whatever, and your plan and whatnot. And so they're wondering if he had something like that set up in his home.
My mind goes to, is that too much?
Well, no, it's not too much. I mean, that's the kind of obviously very compelling evidence that law enforcement officers hope to discover in this guy's apartment would be evidence that he planned or participated in other crimes. But in terms of the language that you're pointing to, I think about the victims here, and oftentimes victims make certain lifestyle choices that could subject them to public criticism. There could be private medical information that you just generally, out of decorum, don't want that information released to the public. And let's keep in mind that what's really, really vital here is for law enforcement officers to maintain the integrity of their information.
That he was there 12 times, and much of it was at night. It's entirely possible he was taking pictures through the windows constantly, and that those pictures are up on walls somewhere, and he's fixated on these victims. But
So that's interesting. Now, that I haven't heard is, and I'll play that one more time if you kind of missed that.
Through the windows constantly.
Oops,
and that those
go back just a little bit more.
That he was there 12 times, and much of it was at night.
So that I didn't know unless I kind of missed something in the affidavit, but not only was he there in those 12 times, but a lot of those times were at night. That would be creepy.
It's entirely possible he was taking pictures through the windows constantly, and that those pictures are up on walls somewhere, and he's fixated on these victims. But that said, I could understand not releasing the photos, but saying that there's a collection of photos. Why, Chris Anderson, would the notion that there might even be photos, or there might even be flowcharts, or a list of victims' names or potential victims in the future? Why would that be something you'd have to? You don't have to say the names, but you could certainly say the nature of the evidence, couldn't you?
The house behind me where those 4 students were.
Okay, so this clip here, I think, goes into the vigil that people are talking about. And yes, you're right. There is, I think there's now 2 different people that could be, but the one is going to be debunked here, and we'll see.
So brutally murdered is and will remain a crime scene for some time as investigators continue to build their case against accused killer 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger. Over the last couple of days, those investigators have been removing more items from this house. Those items included mattresses, and you'll remember, of course, that at least some of those students were killed as they slept in their beds. Forensics experts talking to Fox say that investigators will likely gain a whole lot more DNA evidence from this scene.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's not just blood. We're talking about any kind of touch DNA, like dead skin cells that are sloughing off. You also have hair transfer, fiber transfer. All of these things are going through. And here's key. If he has blood on him, he's going to contact the surfaces that he's walking on and touching. Powerful evidence.
And I think that's probably some of the stuff that was left out in the PC affidavit because, as most of us know, the probable cause affidavit just has just enough details to warrant an arrest. And they don't want to show all their cards. So I'm sure there's probably a lot more in that house. So, debunk away, Chris. I love this channel. Oh, thank you so much, AJ. I mean, I make mistakes all the time. I mean, in the last live, I accidentally said that the sister was at the house with the defense team because I swear that was on one of the news clips. And, but anyway, we'll look at that as well. But here, we're going to look at the vigil here in just a second.
Accused killer Bryan Kohberger secretly posed as a citizen.
Okay, but just before this is interesting. So these are some of the Facebook posts that were posted, some of the, private Facebook group posts, talking about the case discussion. And I don't know if this is the inside looking out one, but
Sleuth investigating the murders. A posting on Facebook has people wondering if it was really Kohberger. It was posted on November 30th after police announced the victims were killed with a large knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. It proved chillingly accurate.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, especially how that's worded. It's not just like, I wonder if there was a sheath left behind. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. I mean, ooh. Either you're psychic. I mean, that's scary. That sounds like it's a good possibility that was BK.
Leaders now say a knife sheath was left behind at the scene, and important DNA evidence was found on the button snap. The mysterious citizen sleuth also posted this theory. Killer parked behind the house, approached the property through tree line, entered sliding door. That matches what police now say actually happened. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer.
So yeah, that's interesting. And she's going to confirm this as well. So I guess he did park in that little back area, which is basically like what we're looking at right now. As you know, if you drive just a little bit past the home and in between the apartment complex to the west, in between the house and the apartment complex, you can go down that road that's basically where the cameraman's kind of standing on. And then it actually has like a big giant parking lot that's behind it. And it actually extends kind of like probably like maybe halfway of this balcony. I don't know, maybe even further. And it just goes, all the way back. So it looks like he parked back there and then exited the vehicle, stayed in the tree line. And if you remember, in the first week or so, they had, of course, put the crime scene around just the basic perimeter. But then after like a week or so or less, they actually extended that perimeter and they actually were focused on this area here and came back more. And then, of course, they were all kind of searching around. And it almost looks like, I'm pretty sure if we have time, there's, they were looking at what could have been like a footprint that was possibly either heading from or to in this tree line area here.
That matches what police now say actually happened. Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer believed on social media today with speculation that it's Kohberger attending.
Okay, so if you guys been with me, we watched this before, and one of the things that I noticed is that I'm like, because we kind of played it over and over, I noticed I'm like, this guy's got glasses. Now keep in mind, this footage that's going to come up here in a second, we hadn't seen this, but I'm like, because I just kept kind of replaying it, and I'm like, I can barely see, but you can kind of see like his lens, and I'm like, that guy's wearing glasses. Not that Bryan couldn't just come to one of these and wearing glasses, but anyways, we do get to actually get a good look at this guy's face.
A heart-wrenching vigil for the victims held at the University of Idaho 2 weeks after the murders.
One of the most powerful moments of tonight's vigil was when...
Look, the same man...
So there he is.
...and was walking behind me as I was reporting that night. There he is again.
And, yeah, is that the same guy? Because he wasn't wearing his glasses there, right there. Is this two different guys? Maybe he just took his glasses.
As I was reporting.
Definitely don't have his glasses on right there, but he does have the same outfit. Must have took them off.
That night. There he is again.
But there he is with his glasses.
I can definitely say the online speculation is not accurate. He's clearly not Bryan Kohberger.
And Bryan Kohberger has, like, in the back, he's got a little bit more shorter hair in the back. It's kind of like two different lengths compared to the top.
Not Bryan Kohberger. And the sister of victim Kaylee
not even close, yeah. Okay, and then just for anybody that might still think this is the sister, because, oh my gosh, I could see why people were saying this was his sister or thought it was his sister, because they do look a lot alike. But anyway, I do a little side by side just for those that are kind of wondering. So it's this person here in the middle that people are kind of saying this could have been the sister. And this is the defense team, and that's his defense attorney, Annie. And then here's the gal that must work with her. Anyway, we'll do a side-by-side here in just a second. So that's a sister, for those that may not know. So he has two sisters, and one of them, I guess, was in a kind of a slasher film. And I think this is a picture from the slasher film. And one thing we can see already is she's got long hair. And so here's a picture of her recently. This is her and I think her mom. And as you can see, she's got blonde hair, but it looks like kind of like almost bleach blonde. and it's definitely long. Goes down to her chest, whereas the other girl, and I'll just do a little side by side here in a second. So if we just looked at the side by side, okay, so make sure I'm not blocking. As we can see, her hair, it's kind of like, it fades as it goes to her back, but I would say just below the neck, but her hair is clearly longer. And so, but they do look quite alike, and they do kind of wear the same eyeshadow. And as you can see, she's kind of got the same black coat. I think even she's wearing black pants. So I could easily see why people could, think this was the sister, just because they do look a lot alike for sure. But yeah, definitely a lot brighter hair. She's kind of got different colors. So, but anyway, I thought I'd play that just because I did accidentally. Yeah, Annie Taylor. Thank you. Just looking at the chat here. That's what I was wondering. So that's what I think is just the way it's described in the affidavit. I think it's a good possibility he was wearing, because then he wouldn't stick out really, because like if you're wearing like a ski mask type deal, obviously you're going to stick out more if somebody comes, if there's kind of a witness outside. But if you're just wearing like a COVID mask, whatever, it's nothing, nobody's going to, really take a second look. Could that be the other sister? No, the other sister, I've seen one picture of her, but no. And you got to think, like, the last thing I think they would want to risk is having one of the Kohberger family members there at the crime scene and walking through the home and possibly leaving more Kohberger DNA, family DNA. That's not going to look good. So I doubt they would want them anywhere near the crime scene, because obviously this is, one of the big things that they got on Bryan right now is that DNA. So I doubt they would be wanting to be there. I don't know. That might even be a conflict of interest as well. I'm not sure. So. Oh gosh, I heard it, and I think I think I have the video if you're really interested to know. Oh, this is why I wanted to play this. So there's some pictures of Bryan when he was younger, but I found this picture to be very interesting. And apparently he was inspiring to become like an Army Ranger. And the reason why I think this is kind of interesting is you think Army, Marine Corps, U.S. Marine Corps, K-Bar. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, he was aspiring to work or be in the Army Rangers. And then here, he's got this United States Marine Corps, at least sheath, and most likely a K-Bar to go along with it. But Mammy says, in my opinion, warrant is sealed to keep evidence quiet until trial. Oh, yeah. This keeps potential jurors from having prior knowledge of evidence. Oh, yeah. That's the last thing, because, yeah, we don't want no mistrial or anything. And we, of course, want him to have a fair trial. So, but yeah, totally agree. Thank you so much, Mammy, for the $10. Tracy says, definitely a conflict of interest. I would think something like that, but I'm not an expert on that. But yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Haley Shoop, for the $5. Okay, so where do we want to go? Let me write this down, Michelle, and if we get some time, I will play the little clip that they mentioned the movie. I'm sure somebody in the chat probably knows. So anyway, I put out a video earlier today, and just curious to get your guys' thoughts if you haven't seen it. And so we'll go ahead and play that. Let's see where I got it. Okay, so it's not that one, but we'll look at this one here in just a second. Oh, there it is. Okay, found it. Awesome. Yeah, here's a picture of her, and I think these two pictures here are from the movie. I can't think of it. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play the video that I put out earlier today, and just kind of get your guys' thoughts, because that was interesting that he turns off his phone twice on November 13th. The first time is obviously after those 2 hours of his phone being off, he had, committed that heinous crime. And then later that day, he would go to turn off his phone for a second time. And so I just had kind of a theory, and just kind of, I'll play it for you guys. I'm just curious to know what your guys' thoughts on.
And detectives say...
Okay, one thing I want to show you guys real quick. Before I do this, I better pull this up here. Is it this one? I might actually have to pull up the PC affidavit. Oh, is this one? Oh, yeah, you're right. You guys called it. Yep, you're right. So this is the one from June 2022 to present. The records of the 8458 phone show the 845 phone cell resources that provide coverage to the area of the King Road residents on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th. All of these occasions, except for one, occurred in the... Oh, yeah, you're right. So, yeah, and it occurred in the late evening, early morning hours of the respective days. Yeah, I did miss that last line. So, interesting that not only was he out there, but late evening, early morning hours, 12 different occasions before November 13th, starting in June. So, very interesting. Okay, one more thing I wanted to show you. Okay, because I put this video out, a lot of people are saying there's no Johnson, Idaho. And yes, I do know that there's a Johnson, Washington. But as you can see, this is PC affidavit, Johnson, Idaho. And that is 102 miles east. And so, unless that was a typo, which it could have been, but I don't know if they'd make that many mistakes. But so anyway, yes, Johnson, Idaho does exist, because when I put this video out, some people are saying different things. So now I'm going to go ahead and play this video here. Let me quickly get these real quick. Denali, I hope I said that right. 25. Thank you so much for the $3. I'm sorry if I butchered that. That's kind of hard. And okay. Thank you so much. All right.
And detectives say his cell phone was recorded at least 12 times near the off-campus home between the months.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody, where we cover murder, mystery, to the paranormal. So going back to Sunday, November 13th, the alleged killer, Bryan Kohberger, according to the probable cause affidavit, would commit a heinous crime. But I want to focus on the 2 times that he turned off his phone. So the first time he turned off his phone would be for 2 hours, and he turned his phone off in Pullman, Washington, heading south. It would be off between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. And at 4:48, when it turns back on, he would be heading south in Blaine, Idaho. During those 2 hours, he would allegedly take 4 students' lives. Bryan would then head back home for a few hours, travel back to Moscow.
Yeah, I apologize. I said corpse, like CORPS is cores. Yeah, my apologies. I was never in the military, So no offense. My apologies on saying that. So anyway, so just kind of going back, this is the first time that he would turn off his phone.
And at 4:48, when it turns back on, he would be heading south in Blaine, Idaho. During those 2 hours, he would allegedly take 4 students' lives. Bryan would then head back home for a few hours, travel back to Moscow, then back home, then head south to Clarkston for a while, and then possibly back to his home for another couple of hours before making a huge trip east over 100 miles to Johnson, Idaho, where he would turn off his phone for the second time in one day at 5:36 p.m.
So kind of the argument is the 2 times that he turns off his phone in one day, the first time he does something terrible. And so that tells you that he knows at the very least that he can be tracked via his phone. Now, of course, he wasn't thinking about surveillance cameras all over the place, and that will be his Achilles heel along with many other things. But now we move forward along through the day. He decides to take this long trip, 2 hours and 4 minutes, to Johnson. And yes, it does exist. There's a Johnson, Idaho. It's just at the mouth of the national forest, which you've got St. Joe to the north, you've got Clearwater right there, and something to the south. Oh, Nez Pierce Reservation. I mean, you're just surrounded on 3 sides. And so he takes this 2-hour trip. But what I was trying to get to, and I'll go ahead and play this and then we'll talk about it.
Would have his phone off for nearly 3 hours before turning it back on at 8:30 p.m. Johnson, Idaho is literally at the mouth of a huge national forest. Now let's take a step back and assuming he is guilty and committed this terrible crime, where was Bryan when he first turned off his phone? He was in Pullman, Washington, near his home. So Bryan clearly knows that he is being tracked while his phone is on. So if he was going to do something mischievous again, like getting rid of some evidence like his clothing, the knife, and dispose of anything else, why not turn off your phone somewhere around your home like the first time he did?
So just my argument here, and there's kind of a couple of things to go along. So when he went to go commit the murder, if it was Bryan, allegedly, he turned his phone off just before or just after he left his home, but he turned it off near his home. And then it wouldn't turn back on 2 hours later until Blaine. So if he's going to go do something, possibly getting rid of evidence, why not do the same thing and turn your phone off again just as he's pulling south of Pullman, Washington? But instead of doing that, he waits, and you would think he has to know, just in case, and like I said, I know some people are saying, well, maybe he could be using it for his GPS. But if you look at the directions here, they're pretty simple. I mean, it's pretty much a straight shot south on the 195. Then you take the 12, and then there's one more once you get to Greer here, which is I think the 11, and that's it. I mean, there's just 3 main highways that you could easily write down. So why wait until you're all the way over there?
Directions to Johnson, Idaho are not hard and no need for GPS, but instead of turning his phone off first, he drives all that way to Johnson, Idaho while his phone is on, and once he gets to the mouth of the national forest, then turns it off. Keep in mind, he knows that they can track his phone, and now he is leading law enforcement into the mouth of a giant national forest where he has his phone turned off for approximately 3 hours.
I mean, if you're going to want to get rid of some clothes, I mean, that's something that I would assume that he would try to want to burn, not just dispose in the garbage. I think he would definitely want to completely get rid of those. I mean, the knife is a different situation because it's metal, but the clothes, I'm assuming, and then maybe if he cleaned his car, he would want to like I said, trash can first, but probably more importantly, try to burn those completely. But there's another argument on top of this that I'm going to play here in just a second.
Was this all a ruse that he conjured up after the homicides, knowing he probably left the sheath at the crime scene, so he needs to make sure they don't find anything else? So Bryan needs to send law enforcement in one direction, like a giant national forest, while he could have disposed the evidence somewhere in the opposite direction. But my argument would be, if Bryan knows he is being tracked with a phone, could he have, during the hours his phone was pinging at his home in Pullman, Washington, could he have just left his phone at the apartment and then headed somewhere that's opposite of the crime scene in a remote location, disposing of evidence, while his phone was pinging at his home for many hours?
So yeah, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot more details, especially during discovery. It's early days, and so it's a lot. This is a lot of just speculation, which I don't. We try to stick with the facts, but it's kind of fun to speculate a little bit. But could it be possible that the time that he's pinging at home, and he's home for many hours in between these trips back to Moscow and then down south to Clarkston, but he is in Pullman for quite a few hours that day. Could he have just left his phone at home and then decided to go east or north, not east, excuse me, west or north or even south, wherever? I mean, you got the giant Snake River that he could easily drive to, or you got the Spokane Valley that Gonzo talked about, which is huge. I mean, everything is pretty remote out there, so it wouldn't take too long to get to just a remote area from where he's at in Pullman, Washington. And could he have just left his phone on? And yes, maybe there could have been some surveillance that maybe seen him as he's kind of exiting, Pullman. But once he gets to a remote area, there's a good possibility there's no cameras, and now his phone is pinging, and so you can kind of use an alibi. But anyway, just food for thought. Kayla Tots says, has there been any news about where the girls were before the bar, or was there footage I missed showing someone giving Maddie the black jacket she has on? As far as footage, it was before the bar. Is there footage I missed showing them someone? Not that I know of. But yeah, because they were at the bar between 9 and 1:30, but they don't say what happened prior to that. So I don't know. I mean, I could easily see, if they're at the bar, some gentleman gives her a code, or maybe Kaylee could have. But yeah, I'm not sure. But thank you, Kaylee, for the $5. Interesting question. Karen says, yes, Chris, I agree. Why didn't he turn his phone off when heading for Johnson? There was a national forest and river. And there's quite a bit there. There is quite a bit. And yes, they do. That is kind of the number one source when it comes to ditching things, is bodies of water. And then I think trash cans and stuff like that are next. Okay, let me finish playing this here.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this theory. Let me know what you think in the...
So anyway, just food for thought, just because, like I said, I thought it was interesting to kind of break down the 2 times that he turns off his phone and what he does in those 2 situations. And, clearly the one is he, has this terrible, does this terrible crime in those first 2 hours. And then the second time he drives all the way east to the mouth of this forest. And could he have tried to do that because I think he probably panicked knowing that he left that sheath at the residence, and so he didn't want to have any more evidence found on his possession if he was caught. And So I think, he was trying to get rid of that evidence. And so, Tom N, thanks for all you do, Chris and mods. Member for 8 months. Man, that went by fast. Thank you so much, buddy. And I appreciate you guys so much. I thank you guys taking the time out of your day to watch the show. We'll kind of recap some stuff here. And there's a few other things I want to touch on. But yeah, I'll kind of take a little bit, break down that footage again, and we'll show it for those that might have missed it in the beginning. It is interesting. Maybe I can find that TMZ article as well. Let's just see if they have any information on it. TMZ, Kohberger, car scene. So one day, do they actually have? Okay, let's see. No. Information on it. Okay, that's nothing. So it has the video, but it doesn't. Oh, no, here we go. Okay, let's see if there's anything that they explain why they think this is it. So anyway, okay, I'll just read it. So the White Hyundai Elantra may have been caught driving near the crime scene after he allegedly slaughtered the 4 students. Daylight. So Fox News published. So well, interesting. Okay, so Fox News published the footage Monday, showing a white sedan cruising after daylight on the morning of November 13th in proximity of Moscow, Idaho. House where Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana were murdered. Remember, police believe they were killed around 4 a.m. on November 13th. So this video was recorded a few hours later. In the video's background, you can clearly see the video vehicle, which matches the description of Kohberger's Elantra, but it's hard to tell the make and model. Fox reporters recently reviewed the footage, although it's not clear when they obtained it. So this apparently came from Fox. But yeah, what's Fox doing out there before? Okay, let's read the rest of this. Although it's not clear when they obtained it and found the potential evidence, the video could bolster what investigators said Kohberger's cell phone data already shows that he returned to the murder scene. And that is it. I'll have to do some more research on that. That's interesting. I mean, it kind of looks like that area. But man, I mean, yeah, the argument would be is, nobody knows that anything has happened. They don't, 911 call hasn't happened until 11:58 a.m. He's driving between 9:12 and 9:21. But that is interesting, though. And it looked like it's, just in my opinion, filmed right here, looking this way. And that would explain the fence right there. Except you would think you would see these cords. Do we see those cords in there? See a fence line, but I don't see the cords. I don't know. It could be from a different angle, though. See, I see a cord there, though. I don't know. I'd have to do some more studying on it. All right, so this is what's coming up. So he has a preliminary status hearing scheduled for tomorrow at 8 a.m. At the status hearing, defense will choose whether they want a preliminary hearing And then, so it's either one of two things. Either they have the hearing, and then, or the defense can waive the preliminary hearing and then enter a plea, I guess is what this is saying. And prosecutor puts on a mini trial. So we've got that to look forward to, and I believe it's going to be filmed because they had cameras in the courtroom. So, and yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff coming up. This basically, sorry, I am stuffed up, but yeah, for this early spring, I mean, we've got Richard Allen, we've got his I think pre-trial coming up in a few days or next week. I got to double check on that. And then, of course, the Daybell case, Fauci. Well, that's not Idaho. But as far as Idaho, yeah, we've got the Daybell case and this case. So a lot of stuff coming up. Very well done presentation as always, Chris. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much, Dark Arts. What is Jack in the Box? So Jack in the Box is like Burger King, McDonald's. Hardee's actually I think is in cahoots with Jack in the Box. There's not many Hardee's. I don't think there's any Hardee's here in Utah. But when I went out east in Ohio, they actually had Hardee's. I was like, oh my gosh, I have not seen that. I've not seen that fast food joint since I was a little kid. So, but yeah, they're just a fast food joint like Burger King. Hi, Chris. You're doing great with the case. Thank you so much, Apple Pip. Good to see you. Member for 9 months. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for the support. That is so amazing. Fucci? Aiden Fucci. The guy that killed poor Tristan Bailey. I have a picture of her. What do I do? Here we go. This guy here. And what's interesting about that case is, well, sadly, he stabbed that poor girl, but after he disposed the knife in a body of water. So, oh, you guys, Hardee's in Florida? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we have In-N-Out Burger. Yeah, there's a lot that's changed for sure. Oh yeah, Troy Driver. Yeah, gosh, he kind of just disappeared for sure. Yeah, a lot of cases. I mean, it's going to be crazy. But so tomorrow we'll probably go live tomorrow in the morning to cover that. I don't know if there's going to be anything huge, but oh, thanks so much, Tom. This case is so compelling. You do amazing work. We appreciate what you do. I believe law enforcement has their guy. He thought he was smarter. Yeah, I think he was trying to commit the perfect crime. Smarter than law enforcement. This will be his demise, in my opinion. Yeah, he was a little too arrogant. Justice for these victims and family. So hard to imagine what was going through his mind. Yeah, I know. For us normal people that just couldn't fathom taking somebody's life like that. Just it's terrible. Thank you so much, Tom, for the $100, buddy. That is so awesome. So let's say I'll play that video one more time if you're kind of intrigued on it. I will do a little more research on it because, like I said, I only got a hold of it just like hour and a half before the show and hadn't really looked at it more than a couple times.
Driving by the scene of the
So I'll see what's in this background. There's a few things we can kind of either debunk or, I mean, that definitely stands out. Just trying to think of this poll is going to be the biggest, the biggest reference source, but I can't. It just sucks because I've got to go through my archive and find where this isn't blocked out, because there is one more pole right here, and they could, let's see, can we see something if we're back here? Ugh, they got that completely blurred out. Anyway, so maybe it's that way. Yeah, that would make sense, because then you would just have the one there, then the lines. Yeah, it might be from filming there, but yeah, it still weird, because what would the news crew be doing there so early on? They wouldn't know, But I just want to mention this one more time. What was that? If that door was open, it just makes you wonder. That witness that supposedly drives by. Where's the pole at? Or does that just come from the top of that? Okay. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that one more time. It makes you wonder if that door was open, kind of like basically how it is right now, if you guys can see that. So apparently, if it's true, at 8:49 or 8:45, which is kind of creepy because that is about 15 minutes before Bryan Kohberger would show up again. But person was, I don't know, walking a dog or something and noticed that this was wide open. So I just wonder if maybe Dylan might have ran out the home at some point. Just food for thought. So let's see, what time do we start? 7:30. Okay, so let me get chat for a little bit and see if there was anything else I was going to cover. Oh, I did want to take a more update. Let's see. Oh, yeah, there was a couple other things real quick. The family put out a statement. Okay, so this came from, let's see, where did this come from? Okay, so this was on the flight, I guess, from the people when he was flying from Pennsylvania back to Idaho. I guess this is what people are saying that were on the flight. So apparently they say he seemed really nervous. A police source who was involved in the process tells People magazine. He was narrating to himself everything was happening. At one point, he was saying something to himself like, "I'm fine, this is okay." Like he was reassuring himself that this whole thing wasn't awful. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so this came from the family of Ethan. Let me take a sip real quick and we'll read this. So, if for those that may not know, Ethan is he's got two other twins. So one one brother and one sister. They're all three twins. So, and this comes from Stacy Wells Chapman. I'm not sure if that's the sister or the mother. So it says, we spent the last 8 weeks, besides the obvious, focused on Maisie and Hunter, which is his brother and sister of the other twins. Yesterday, we successfully dropped them off back at the University of Idaho. Kids are starting to go back to school. Hunter was very glad to be back in the fraternity. Maisie was warming up to the idea, but it was so good to hear all the girls squeal with delight upon seeing her. So her friends were excited to see Maisie. It did this mama's heart good to hear that. The support from the University of Idaho and Moscow Police Department has been profound. Maisie and Hunter are rock stars, and we couldn't be more proud of them. Their job now is just to be kids, start where they left off, keep goals and aspirations in mind. For an update on Ethan, anything Ethan had is now frozen with the defense gag order. For us, it involves 2 vehicles, ease belonging, and a nice set of golf clubs. We met with prosecutors, handled media inquiries, managed, grieved, talked, and continued to try and process our new normal. However, nothing has changed. We spend no time being angry. That would be energy not well spent and still wouldn't change the outcome. We have to look ahead. So, well said. And can't imagine what that family is going through. So that looks about it. So yeah. So I think we may go live in the morning. Well, we'll see. It sounds like it should be cameras in the room, just like the other 2 times. And it said 8:30, but I don't know if that's 8:30 local time. I don't want to say times because I'll probably be an hour off. So, but if I find some info, maybe I'll put it in the description after the video. So, so yeah, for the new members, I just put out a members only video, and we're gonna have a members only live coming up this week. And then when we hit 50K, we'll have a show, a special show with everybody, and we'll do some drawings and some giveaways for that 50K, because that is so cool, and I appreciate everybody support. You guys are awesome, and we're real close. I haven't seen the numbers, but maybe in a day or 2 we should hit it, and that'll be so cool. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, mods, for all the hard work. Thank you for everybody that donated, and hope I didn't miss anybody. And I will have a new pet outro coming up soon. And then I just asked the mods, if you can wait to ask for pets. We'll try to wait till the end of the month to ask for people to send in their pet pictures. That way it's a lot easier for me. So anyway, I'm going to try to get feeling better, and thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Be safe. Love you guys.